Hey guys, it's Christine, owner and co-founder of PrettySpirits.com. And on this channel, we talk all things spirituality, manifestation, and entrepreneurship. And on today's episode, I want to do a story time because I want to explain why it was so important for me to take time away from social media and from YouTube posting consistently as I navigated big spiritual changes in my life. So I want to see if you guys can relate to some of what I went through, drop gems from what you have learned, and I'll do the same. So, to kick things off, we really were very intentional on this channel about posting consistently. But then there was a change within our business as we navigated a split from a previous business partner. And as we reestablished who we were throughout this rebrand, we really needed to take a step back to see what served us, what we wanted to bring you guys in a very genuine and authentic way, and balancing that as we shifted gears into selling physical goods, which was a whole new territory for us because previously we were a service-based business where we just provided readings, Reiki healing, meditation sessions, and so on. So this shift from splitting things as they were and then venturing into this totally new terrain, it was really, really nerve-wracking. And I feel it brought the best out of us because it allowed us to be flexible and to try to gain vision through new ways of thinking. From that point, we realized our time in Long Beach, California was coming to an end. Me and my business partner, Lauren, you'll also see her post on this channel, we decided to move to downtown LA because a lot of what we wanted to sell, there were wholesalers in the downtown area that could really provide us with great resources and connections, and that network we felt was best for our business. So we decided to move our families out to downtown LA from Long Beach, not realizing that the pandemic was about to hit. So when we got to downtown and settled in, this was a time where wholesale shops were closed, everything was closed. And then furthermore, the Black Lives Matter movement was really gaining footing. And it was something so beautiful to witness, but also being in the downtown area through protests and helicopters flying over. I mean, it was just so much energy to handle as two empaths. And it was something that really humbled us because we realized, not everything is going to be according to our schedule or our vision. We needed to relinquish control and be in a position of flow. And if we're always teaching about flow, we needed to make sure that we were embodying what we taught. It was really, really frustrating though, because you have this vision of what your business is going to look like in this time frame where you want to hit these goals, and then your suppliers are like, we can't help you. We can't provide anything to you. And then trying to get things ordered from different locations within the US or even internationally to make up for what we couldn't get locally, there was just a backlog of so much, and it was not as easy as we anticipated. So during this time, I, as a fiance, was really adamant about waiting COVID out. When we were idealistic and we thought that was a thing that we could do, I wanted to wait until my family could fly out to have a wedding. And I remember speaking to my family and my father saying that we don't know how long this is going to last. There's so much going on in the world right now. We're not going to know when we're comfortable flying again because my parents are on the East Coast. I left all of my family. My brother eventually came out to California, but he's in Northern California. So my wedding, as I dreamt it to be, with all of these people coming in, that wasn't going to be the case. But I had this man that I manifested, which will be another video, that I intentionally manifested, who is ready to marry me. So it was a really challenging decision, but with the push from my family, who quite honestly wanted grandchildren ASAP, they gave me that go ahead. They gave me that permission to just move my life along and to get married. So I planned a very quick COVID wedding, and it was everything that I could have really desired and everything I guess my heart was really calling out for, but I didn't even know it because it wasn't crazy expensive. It was very intimate. The weekend was like amazingly calm and high vibe and with the people that bring me such joy. And then everyone through Zoom, I mean, their love could truly be felt. But because I was planning a wedding that was very unexpected, because we were struggling with transitioning from services to a product based business during a pandemic, and we were getting settled to life in downtown, which is polar opposite Long Beach, this beach community that's very walkable and more safe and everything. And then now we're in downtown where they have their own issues, still love downtown, but it was a lot on my plate, but we made it happen. We made it happen. We had a beautiful wedding weekend. And it was very emotional though, because I didn't have my family there. I didn't have my father walking me down the aisle. I didn't have these things as I envisioned them to be, which still makes me emotional if I sit in that energy too long. But it was something that I needed to do to be flexible, which was the theme of this whole transition in general. So one chapter of me not posting on YouTube was due to this. And then shortly after we got married, a few months after, my son was conceived. So this was something that was a desire of both me and my husband, but we did not know it was going to happen that quickly. So we were living in a studio in downtown. I'm pregnant. There's helicopters flying around constantly for the Black Lives Matter movement. And then there were just so many issues with violence in downtown that had taken off because of COVID and because people were really struggling. I mean, the homeless population is wild in downtown, and there's so much that comes from that. And it was unfortunate, but at my building, as I'm adjusting to pregnancy, horrible first trimester with all of the feels, all of the symptoms that they warn you about, I had like an overtime. And in downtown at my building, before my husband came home that night, there was a drive-by shooting. There was a drive-by shooting, and I witnessed the gentleman who passed away in front of my building. So that was a different layer that I didn't anticipate ever experiencing in my life, A, and then experiencing with a child growing inside of me. It inspired so much fear, and it really ignited the resistance I had towards giving birth to a child, because the me of years ago was very adamant on not having kids because I felt the world was crazy enough as it is, and I don't need to become this fear-based woman who's always looking after her child and worried about what's happening, in their lives, if they're safe, if they're caught up with the wrong scene, with the wrong crowd, or subject to violence of this magnitude, because we know gun violence in the US is just freaking insane. So I had to navigate really being vulnerable with my property manager and letting her know that I understand the lease that I signed, but I'm not raising my child here. I'm not being here amidst this chaos. I just cannot. So after a battle of going back and forth, we agreed to terms that served us both, and they were able to find someone to take over the remaining chapter of my lease. And I was able to move with my husband and my growing child in my belly to a different location. But if you have ever taken manifestation coaching with me, you will understand that when you leave one situation unhealed and you are focused on running energy, like you're running away, you're avoiding, you're running away from something, when you do that, you take those issues right with you. Like to your next location, there will be something very similar that can happen or that you are avoiding in your next location. So me and my husband move, and we're getting settled into this apartment home that we are just in love with, because on the surface it is just all of the things. It's more space. We have a proper nursery now. We are in a 2-bedroom, and the community seemed peaceful. So I was very, very excited. Furthermore, I was super excited because there was an extra unit right across from our unit, and it was just as beautiful, peaceful views, all of the things. And I knew that Lauren and her husband were adamant about getting out of the chaos of downtown as well. So I was like, we can co-create this experience where you are moving into this unit. And even though their time frame for moving wasn't until months away, I tell you, I put an energy hold on that space, because no matter how many people toured, they did not seal the deal. They did not go the distance and sign that lease. And so it was held for months, and then Lauren and her husband were able to move in. So it was this perfect situation where my best friend and business partner were across the street. They were across the hall, and I wasn't alone when my husband had to go to work. So with me being pregnant, I knew that I had my A team right across the hall. So it was beautiful. It was all of the things that I desired for a while. But months into things, now this goes into a very challenging time for me where depression, fear of the dark, several things came through to spark intense anxiety. But there was this transition from me going into motherhood, having my child, which was not a smooth process. It was not the things that YouTube shows you where it's this perfect pregnancy and you have a perfect birthing experience and it's just so zen. Instead, it was all of the opposite. It was very lengthy labor. It was me judging the hospital experience while I'm in the hospital, having to trust these doctors and nurses. It was not very, it wasn't very high vibe. I mean, and then because of that, because I'm an empath, a lot of anxiety raised my heart rate really tremendously. And I ended up having an emergency C-section because of it. So throughout that process, I mean, I'm just grateful beyond measure that my son was okay throughout it all. His heartbeat was okay. He was born super big and nice and juicy and all of the things. But bringing him home, it's like something shifts, something just clicks where he is your world, he is your everything, and keeping him safe and sound is of utmost importance. But then I'm navigating healing my body, allowing my body to heal, giving grace to myself as I'm trying to care for this child, but my incision is really painful. And, all of the sleep deprivation and your mood shifts as your hormones level out. There were just so many parts of my being that I didn't even recognize. And I had complications from that C-section, and I had to be not admitted, but I did go to the emergency room, and it was a very scary time because every time I would lay down to go to sleep, I would stop breathing. It was a whole thing. So I'm grateful for the team that really showed up and showed out for me that day at the emergency room, and the people that were so caring through this COVID experience to make sure I felt safe and seen. But even when returning home from that chapter of, wow, this is a spiritual growth spurt that I need to sit with and really process and just be with. The things that I would do before baby, give myself all of the quiet time and space needed. I didn't really have that same opportunity because there is this life that is here now, and my husband has to work, and I have to still kind of show up for her, my business, in the ways that I can. So it's not all on my business partner. There was a lot of moving parts here. So again, another chapter of why YouTube was not at the forefront of my mind whatsoever, because other parts of my sanity and health were. Then, I told you this beautiful new apartment home was a place that I found, and it was so joyous to me. It brought me so much beauty and light and all of the things. But after the heavy rains of that year, and LA is not known for building their housing situation up to par to hold so much rainfall. And I know things have shifted with global climate changes and everything, but there was so much rain that the leaking throughout our building was intense. And unfortunately, they had to do heavy construction because of the damage caused by the water. So I had this beautiful baby who needs his rest. But they decide at this building that they need to re-stucco the whole building with us in it and redo the roof while we are in it. And we were on the top floor. So all of these sounds of hammering and sawing and just voices of people working, them playing their music, conversing with one another, it was like my peace had been rocked. And I didn't understand why this cosmic joke was really being handed to me, because it seemed every time I had found a little bit of like, okay, I see my path out of this fear-based energy. I see my path out. There would be something that would just rock the foundation. And the only thing that really kept me sane was the thought that this expansion, it has to be serving me in some way. Because I know the universe is a very intentional, perfect, harmonious place. And I know that spirit is very intentional. The energy is directed with a purpose. And, all things aren't just happening. They're not cosmic accidents. It is here to serve us. It is here to serve me. I had to keep reeling the energy back in that way to keep grounded. And I kept my network of support, through my family calls, through friend calls. I made sure that I was in those times not unloading so much drama onto them about what was happening, but instead just relishing in the fact that I still had love energy in my life. Despite all of the chaos happening, I still had love energy to gravitate towards and to have a moment with, so I could rebuild the momentum around love force in my life instead of being resistant to all that I was experiencing. So that's what kept me leveled. And I still had moments where I completely, broke down, or I would be in this rage energy and I just had to like lash out. And shout out to my amazing husband for just moving through all of that and learning me at each level and continuing to just be this changeable, resilient being throughout. I mean, I have way more respect for this man than ever before as we moved forward in this chapter. I was vulnerable again. I spoke to my leasing office at the time, and I expressed that I had this baby boy that is in need of sleep. And when they worked on certain parts of our building, it woke him up, and he was screaming with like terror, at which new moms, oh my god, that sound is just like nails on a chalkboard repeatedly. It is something that just sickens me. So my manager of the building, he was really understanding and empathetic because he happened to be a new father as well, and was really navigating his own journey of being a new parent. So he was able to work with us to allow us again another lease breaking experience, and we were able to find another place. But still, now in hindsight, I see that the running energy was happening, and the resistance energy, as much as I was trying to be in flow, I was still being resistant. And it led me to find another place that, again, on the surface seemed wonderful, but then underneath there was so much rotting with the next place that we moved into. But we packed up our things, we were idealistic, and we moved to a townhome that brought us joy. So it's even better, 3 bedrooms. Now I have a guest room. Now, things with COVID are kind of leveling out in a way that people aren't as afraid to get on a plane. So I'm thinking that family will come and stay in this bedroom, and I'm just feeling parts of myself return, parts of my optimism and my courage and my just that inner bliss. It's coming back. I'm in a new location. They aren't hammering on the roof. They aren't like crawling on the walls. This is good. So I'm in this new place, and it takes me not too many months to realize that my landlord is the worst person. He is just not my cup of tea. We do not speak the same language. He is someone who I think got into the housing game for the coin of it, not realizing the customer servicing that needed to come along with the experience. He just was not good at it. And long story short, realized that this guy wasn't someone who cared about the community. So, you have people who have flips in these up and coming areas, but they don't really mind that their building may be adding to the problem, and I mean that from several ways that I won't get too into, but just the pride that he had in that building was not there. And it definitely felt like things that were said or done were racially motivated. And our time there, because again, like, I'm a mother who is like, I am protecting this boy's energy. So we're not living here, we're not living here. So a conversation that was very direct and very, to the point of, this is no longer serving either one of us. It allowed us to just remove ourselves from that experience. But before I moved this time, that led me here to a place that I'm just so happy with, I realized, okay, the moves of the past all had this similar vibe of this negative cloud that came in after things were so positive. And when I was in that negative cloud of energy, all I wanted to do was run, instead of really sitting with it and analyzing the pattern and analyze what I was manifesting from my point of attraction. So until I find a high level of balance, I should not look for another place until I'm there, until I'm feeling sound. So I knew that location was not serving my family anymore. And before I just like beelined out, I made sure to do things that just brought me joy where I was. And I gave so much gratitude to the experiences of the past. I did healing rituals on my homes of the past. I did healing rituals around my birthing experience that I carried trauma forward around. And I just really sat with myself and understood that if I make peace with all of these loose ends and all of this anger and worry that I have, it'll make for a level playing field in which to manifest from. So I did these things for some time before I had that direct conversation with my landlord. And it felt so much more empowering. Instead of feeling like I was fleeing, it felt like I was deciding. It felt like I'm not just being reactionary. It felt like I was being empowered and really saying, our family has outgrown this chapter. Our family is ready for more. And we're going to allow you to do what you need to do for yourself, landlord guy. And we're going to do what we need to do for ourselves. And I'm not going to hold judgment towards you too much, because I just realized the way we approach the world is just different. And me having these types of conversations within myself, within my journal, it helped me manifest the next chapter that felt so different. It felt different. Like, when you're doing something and it's just the right move for you. And then when you're doing something to avoid or to escape or to run from something, it feels way different. So when I had this conversation with my landlord, and it was, met with everything just aligning so beautifully, all the details around the last move aligned so beautifully. That was another amazing sign to me. So when I finally moved to the area that we are in the Valley now, Los Angeles, it was like, oh my goodness, this is it. This is the community that I've been seeking. It had the pieces of Long Beach that I love. It had the walkability of downtown that I loved. It had the spaciousness of the townhome that I love. It had all of these things that I cherished and that I gave gratitude about experiencing in my previous chapters. But it was different because it matched who me, my husband, and my child, what we're growing into. It matched us differently because we took the time to be more intentional before just jumping and moving. So all of these things led me to be here. And of course, there were twists and turns that were happening with business throughout, because that is the way of entrepreneurship. We were moving our office to try to be near our living situations, and navigating, shifting from being in an office to a fulfillment center as we started to sell more and more products globally, and super highs with having my son, getting married, business expansion, really solidifying my friend group so I felt super safe and seen, just really growing in parts of myself, being in a community that's very kid friendly, super, super kid friendly. There's so many things to do for kids. So there's all these highs, but then there were dramatic lows of losing friends, of just feeling like less than as an entrepreneur, and really being hard on myself with the goals that I really had, and looking at my age and comparing it to where my success level should be, and having those bumpy adjustments within marriage as you have a kid in the mix now. And it's not just all about you and him and adventures and date night, learning to make it the three of you, but still have each person, be seen, and each relationship within the dynamic be nurtured. So that is the long overarching story of why certain things had to fall by the wayside. Because before, I used to be a person that wanted to carry everything along with me and wanted to master it all. But this version of me says, I do what I can with what I have, and I'm not giving more than the cup that I have. Like, I'm not going to try to over pour into this or over deliver on that. The older I get into my 30s, God bless them, the 30s have been so wonderfully enlightening to me, because that people pleasing part of myself is falling away more and more. And it's more about honoring who I am, placing me first, and then explaining it when I need to, but holding my personal business to myself when I need to as well. But I wanted to be vulnerable with you guys here on YouTube and let you know that is what I was navigating. But now I am feeling more of sound mind, of sound heart, and sound spirit. So that is why I've opened up my coaching and my psychic reading sessions to feed you guys even more value. And it is my commitment to be very consistent on this platform, because I love it. Like, I love it. I love it, love it, love it. So it was sad, removing it from my life as a creative outlet for so long. But now I am back and I feel better than ever. So thank you so much. Comment below if you've had some deep, deep changes during this time. I feel like 2020 and beyond is just this new evolution of so many, and we're really harnessing a different type of power now, and authenticity is really the name of the game. That's why you'll all see me get on here, and it's not always going to be all made up, because I have a boy. I have a baby boy who I'm not putting makeup on and having him rub against my face. And then just COVID allowed me to relax more. I love the skin I'm in. My husband does too. My friend circle does, in my family. So that is like, I'm good to go. So I'm going to get on here very raw and authentic, but the value that I give you, that's going to be pristine. So just look forward to it. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, the conversation doesn't have to end here. It is at Pretty Spirits Co. That's at Pretty Spirits Co. Remember to like, subscribe, click that bell so you get the notifications whenever I post new content. And remember to share this with someone who you think it can help or inspire.